Ever wondered what life was like in France before the French Revolution? That's what we call the Ancien Régime. This term encapsulates the social and political system that held sway in the Kingdom of France, a system that would eventually be toppled by the revolutionary fervor of the late 18th century. The Ancien Régime was not an era of stagnation, far from it. Rather, it was a period of state-building, legislative acts, and internal conflicts that shaped the direction of French society. It was a time when kings and queens held court, and the drive for centralization was motivated by financial and military needs. The Ancien Régime was a complex, evolving system that spanned centuries. It was in this era that France emerged as a global power, navigating the choppy waters of international politics and warfare. It was a time of tradition, but also of change, as the seeds were sown for the revolution that would transform France and the world beyond. Now that we've set the stage, let's dive into the fascinating evolution of the Ancien Régime. The Ancien Régime was not a static entity. It evolved over time, molded by the hands of state-building, legislative acts, and internal conflicts. This evolution was significantly driven by the need for centralization, a push motivated by financial and military necessities. As the Kingdom of France grew in power and influence, it became critical to consolidate control, streamline governance, and ensure a unified response to external threats. This drive for centralization marked a key phase in the Ancien Régime's evolution, as it paved the way for a stronger, more unified French state. But the Ancien Régime was not only shaped by domestic policies and internal struggles. Its evolution was also deeply influenced by events unfolding beyond France's borders. One such event was the 9 Years' War, a conflict so extensive that it is often referred to as the First Global War. This war was a crucial test for the Ancien Régime and its centralization efforts. Fought between France and a coalition of European powers, the conflict saw France, under the rule of the formidable Louis XIV, emerge as a dominant force. However, it also sparked tensions that would continue to impact the Ancien Régime in the years to come. The war ended with the Treaty of Ryswick, yet peace was fleeting. The question of who would succeed Charles II of Spain ignited new conflicts, leading to the War of the Spanish Succession. This war, and the subsequent political maneuvering, had profound implications for the Ancien Régime. It drew France further into the complex web of European politics and set the stage for future conflicts. The Ancien Régime, thus, was a product of its time, shaped by the events that unfolded within and beyond the French borders. The War of the Spanish Succession was a crucial turning point during the Ancien Régime. The tides of change were stirred by the Spanish Empire's vast wealth and power, a tempting target for ambitious European powers. Yet the empire's future lay in the balance, its inheritance uncertain, and the question of who would succeed Charles II of Spain sparked a conflict that would shape the course of history. The Habsburgs and the Bourbons, two of Europe's most powerful families, had their own candidates vying for the Spanish throne. The Habsburgs, a dynasty whose influence stretched across Europe, from Austria and Germany to Spain and Portugal, sought to place their candidate on the throne. On the other hand, the Bourbons, who had recently risen to power in France under the rule of Louis XIV, also had their eyes set on the Spanish crown. This rivalry between the Habsburgs and the Bourbons was not just about the Spanish throne. It was a battle for dominance, a struggle for power that would tip the scales of the Ancien Régime, the political and social system of the Kingdom of France. As the war raged on, the Ancien Régime found itself influenced by this conflict. The Bourbons, under the strong leadership of Louis XIV, emerged as a powerful force, asserting their authority over France and beyond. The Habsburgs, although defeated in the war, did not fade away, maintaining their influence in various parts of Europe. The War of the Spanish Succession was more than just a war. It was a catalyst for change, a turning point that would shape the future of Europe and the world. It influenced the Ancien Régime, altering its course and pushing it towards evolution. And thus, the Ancien Régime influenced by the War of the Spanish Succession, continued to evolve until it was eventually abolished during the French Revolution. The Ancien Régime, as we know it, came to an end with the French Revolution. This monumental event marked the conclusion of a system that had weathered internal conflicts, state-building, and legislative acts. The revolution, fueled by the people's desire for change, uprooted the long-standing political and social order. The Ancien Régime, with its traditionalism and stagnation, was no match for the fervor of the revolutionaries. This revolution wasn't a sudden overnight change. It was the culmination of simmering resentments and aspirations. The revolutionaries sought a society free from the shackles of the outdated system. The centralization that once served the Ancien Régime soon became its downfall. The people, tired of the old ways, yearned for a new dawn. In the aftermath of the revolution, France underwent drastic changes. The monarchy, once the cornerstone of the Ancien Régime, was abolished. The country was reshaped into a republic, marking a new chapter in its history. This change was not without its trials and tribulations, but it was a step towards a future that the French had envisioned. So, the Ancien Régime, a system that had evolved and adapted over time, was eventually replaced by a new order. But its impact and legacy are still felt in the annals of history.